Greg J here. Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on. Good morning. How are you today? Yeah, we're out here striving. Things are happening. Seasons have changed, are changing, depending on what part of the country you are in, what part of the world you are in. Hope you're well wherever you are. Coffee Conversations with Greg J is a place where we have culturally relevant conversations. We come from a global perspective, diasporic, yep, talking about Africa to the United States, building bridges of music, arts, and culture all over the world, examining what is happening in the headlines, examining what's happening in our communities, what's happening in our culture. Just want to talk about it right here. Coffee Conversations with Greg J. You can get us on any of our Facebook pages, Coffee Conversations with Greg J, Beach City Perspective, Beach City Radio. You can also get us on the website, beachcityradio.com. Get them over at YouTube. And when you go to YouTube, please like and subscribe so we can stimulate those algorithms to spread our videos all over the internet. We repurpose our audio. We put it out there as podcast, and you can get it wherever podcast source you use. iHeart, Spotify, Google, Apple, just all of them. Spreaker, Deezer, even GeoSan, that's over there in India. You're able to pick us up. Podcast, Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Today, we're going to continue our examination of what's happening out there at the LA City Hall. A couple of weeks ago, high-ranking officials in the council, in the city council, were caught on tape using racist remarks, disenfranchisement strategies. A few of the folks have resigned. Nuri Martinez, the president of the city council, resigned her post as president of city council and then ultimately resigned her seat on the city council. Ron Herrera resigned as head of the LA County Labor Federation. Gilbert Cedillo says, nah, I'm not resigning. Kevin De Leon, nah, I'm not resigning. Crowds are forming in front of De Leon's home and also in the city council chambers downtown Los Angeles. I saw yesterday they couldn't even begin their city council meeting because the protesters were so intense. They've been stalling the proceedings down there. They've been activating, advocating. Everybody wants the two city council persons to resign. They're refusing to do so. So I bring you all up to speed. Hopefully our guest will come in as promised and be able to chat with us and give us some more perspective on this whole thing. But while we're waiting for Dr. Horne to chime in, I want to kind of encourage you, as we watch this unfold out there in City Hall. It's very interesting, right? All across the nation, all across the country, we're preparing to cast our ballot in a very important midterm election. There's a lot of people talking about, they're worried about the democracy. We have to save our democracy. That's the phrase that people are using. Republicans are poised to take back the majority of the House. That's the battle, right? We came through 4 years of Donald Trump, now on the shoulders of big promises. Joe Biden is the president. We're not so sure we're so happy about that, right? Lots going on in the world. Gas is high. Interest rates are high. The economy, inflation, homelessness, crime. There's just so many issues right before us. And local elections are really, really looming important. While we're waiting for Dr. David Horne to come in and talk about what's happening in LA City Hall, I want to just kind of talk a little bit about some of the races around the country. And I think we can overcome the shenanigans that we're seeing simply by going to the polls in numbers. That seems to me like the best strategy in front of what we're hearing. I thought down there in Georgia, Herschel Walker, great football player, right? running for office against Raphael Warnock. And it's interesting because he's neck and neck in the polls. And when he presents himself, it's less than what we would expect of a United States senator, contradicting terms, controversy. Yes, he's all for. He's saying he's against abortions, but he's paying for abortions for his girlfriends. And there's just a lot of things going on in that important race down there in Georgia. And many of us are asking, how did he get so close to Raphael Warnock? And I saw an interview with Charlemagne the God, and they had a few young pundits on there. Killer Mike, he's doing a lot of things in the Black community, very articulate young man. And he was sharing how, Brian Kemp, the governor, went to where the Black vote was and established programs and began to really activate in order to, build the trust of the Black community. While the Black community is also saying maybe he is not the choice. I mean, folks, we're not monolithic and we're kind of smart about it, right? The fact of the matter is that he did take action, and he went into the communities to meet the people where they were. And maybe that will result in votes. Is certainly resulting in higher poll numbers. Stacey Abrams, I guess, according to Killer Mike, maybe slow to the job. Is that how I could describe it? Y'all need to look at that. Just Google it, Charlemagne the God and Killer Mike, and they're talking about Tesla and Figueroa. Man, I was trying to get her on here, Coffee Conversations, to talk with us, about this whole thing. Let me get my glasses, y'all, and just try to see where Dr. Horne is. And if he's not able to come in a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next situation. I was glad to hear, here he is right here. Ladies and gentlemen, just as I was getting ready to hang it up, let's see here. Let's see. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Greg. How are you doing?
Doing all right, my brother. How are you today?
Hey, so far so good.
Okay, amen. Yes, so my good friend always says, man, we woke up today. That's what's up.
That's the most important thing. We woke up, we got another chance.
Yes, sir. Yes. Well, thank you for coming on this morning here. We were just kind of running through what we're seeing across the country here as an important election time. It's crunch time. Next Tuesday is the day, but folks can go ahead and vote today if they wanted to. But it's a really crazy time, and especially over there in LA City Hall. But before we get to that particular subject, I would love to hear, before I even get to that, Tuesday, we had someone who identified you as a mentor. Your words to her as a young student influenced her to do what she does. Her name is Kara James, and she is a nurse practitioner with the Planned Parenthood and is advocating, yes on Proposition 1, which will ensure, abortion. She's a reproductive rights advocate. And when
Exactly.
I asked her, okay, who's your biggest influence? She just said, "Oh, you just had him, Dr. David Horne."
Well, thank you to Ms. James. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And I support Prop 1 too.
Good stuff. Good. All right. So I need to ask you, Professor, look, I'm watching Raphael Warnock. I see a polished man. I remember nationwide we were advocating and helping, activate the vote so we could get him in there. Important race. And then here we see him faced off against Herschel Walker. And I'm trying to figure out, how did Herschel Walker get so close in the polls to Raphael Warnock?
Two things. Number one, don't be fooled by the polls. The polls don't vote. And the Republican Party seems to have found a way of gaining control over the reportage about the polls. Even though in some way inflation has become the number one issue according to the polls, That's not according to a lot of other people. The abortion issue is still the most important for most people, particularly for most women. They have listened to the Republicans say that if we get back in charge, we're going to pass a federal law that makes abortion a crime nationwide. And Lindsey Graham has already, put that on the floor. The suburban white women and a whole lot of black women and a whole lot of Asian women and et cetera, they're not interested in having that kind of legislation passed against them. And that's still the number one issue, not inflation. The other thing is that throughout the history of black folk in this country, once we understood somebody else was always in charge, and we were always responding to whatever dinner plate they laid out. We were always responding to somebody else's agenda, somebody else's play, somebody else's song, somebody else's orientation. In the long history of our responding, we have seen Herschel Walker a number of times. He is not new. He is another brother who has basically decided to bow and scrape and smile and do exactly what the master asked him to do. He's a trained dog. I hate to say that about any brother, but he is only in the race because whites who think they are controlling all of it see him as somebody who can basically do their bidding without a whole lot of cost.
Right.
Mr. Walker would not pass a simple high school civics test. He does not know enough about the American government to be talking about running for an office like U.S. Senator. But again, since he is running to do the bidding of a particular political party and a particular gang of white men, it does not matter that he's incompetent. It does not matter that he has shown himself to be somebody who loves falsehoods. It does not matter that he is basically falling into a stereotype. Another black man dancing to the tune that somebody else has laid out. We all had names for folk like that when we were growing up in the community, and I don't want to get that.
Right.
I'll leave that out. But
let me ask you, to your point, Dr. Horne, it's interesting because what irks me a lot of times when we're walking around the community and people are gathered to listen to, the information that's at hand with regard to an election. And the question always is, well, the expectation of the community always is, well, what they going to do for us? What they going to do for us? And I mean, why, when you say, hey, we're dancing to whatever to their music, that question that's been asked by the community is that we expect to be dancing to his music, his agenda.
No, a lot of us do not expect to dance to the music that comes from the piccolo or the radio, or we would prefer to let slide the music that's playing, let that die down, and either we will give you the music that we have created that we want to dance to, or we'll wait until there's something a little more amenable that we want to dance to. Now, in order to be men, in order to be women, in order to be people of substance, we would prefer not to always have to respond to an agenda, a stage created by somebody else for themselves, not for us. Herschel Walker, if he wins, and I seriously doubt that he will, I think common sense will prevail, and Reverend Warnock will win that seat. We have to try as hard as we can to not always follow the music, the tempo, the agenda of other folk. We, as part of our existence as Black people, as we grow, as we learn, as we expand, as we get better, part of all of that is learning how to step off the stage when the music doesn't feel good.
That's right.
When we on the dance floor, hey, if it ain't got it, if the music ain't got it, we step on off.
Step on off. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, here in Southern California, in Los Angeles, we're a couple of weeks removed from the discovery of racist recordings. Nuri Martinez, the president of the city council, resigns. Ron Herrera, the head of the County Labor Federation, he resigns. The other two, Cedillo and De Leon, are steadfast in their refusal to resign. Protesters are convening at City Hall, and they can't even get the meeting started, because there's just so much uproar in the community. But it's got a lot of people in the community just really reeling and trying to wonder, what the heck just happened. And you were sharing that you have an interesting take on the whole LA City Hall racism and resignation situation.
Yeah, I think I do. And I would invite all of you to go to our weekly newspaper.com and look me up as an editorial writer. You'll see the article that I wrote about this issue last week. Essentially, when we are in a fight for our own dignity, when we are in a fight for self-respect, when we are in a fight to change the agenda that we are most often faced with, if we are facing a bull coming at us to gore us, to take us out, we would fight the bull or try to survive one way, okay, or a way that we think would work. If, however, there's a small dog that has decided that he is bigger than he appears to be and barks and tries to charge us, tries to hurt us, if we have any sense, we would deal with the small dog differently than we would deal with the bull. We still may be in danger, but the danger is not the same. When we approach different problems the same way on a regular basis, we are not going to end up being able to solve either one of the problems. To be a little more clear, my wife smiles when I say, listen, you can't be a racist if you're not part of a race. Clearly, that whole division about Caucasoid, Negroid, Mongoloid that we've all been raised with is nonsense anyway. There is no scientific basis for any of that. The only race that we have is the human race, and the human race started in Africa. We want to start talking about where people came from. We all came from Africa. We all Africans.
I agree with that.
If we are talking about dealing with the society created by white people for themselves, society created to exalt themselves, to reward themselves, and to keep us back. If we are dealing with that society, fine. The people who are always trying to support that, who believe that Black people basically should always be kept back, that there's something wrong with the validity of our humanity. They are always ready to deny the validity of our being Black and being here. You know, we are never good enough. We're never smart enough, pretty enough, strong enough. Those folk, when they have talked about insulting us, they can follow that up. You know, it's not just an insult. I'll give you an example. You remember The Great Debaters, that movie that Denzel Washington, was in. There was a scene in the movie when the PhD professor is driving his new car with his family and going through the countryside, and these two old, dirty, scroungy looking white farmers saw them driving the car, came out, stopped the car, and treated that PhD Black man as if he were dirt, made him look weak, made him look like a nothing, a gnat, a moth in front of his family. I mean, they basically reduced this man to basically he was not a man in their eyes. They treated him badly. Now, these were ignorant white folks who looked like they may have had the education of kindergarten. But here was this Black man with a PhD who clearly had command of certain resources. But these two white guys reduced this Black man in the face of his family to nothing. Those two white guys didn't do it because they were smarter. They didn't do it because they basically were more manly. They did it because they understood they were part of a society that would back them up. Mm-hmm. If the Black man had responded and tried to stand up for himself, they not only would have shot him or lynched him, they would have been allowed to do so by the white power structure. Mm-hmm. They knew they could get away with that because they were part of a larger entity. Mm-hmm. Now, when those white men treated him that way, that was racist. That was racist. That was basically a real insult. Latinos are not a race. Latinos are a cultural group. They're not even a united cultural group. You got a language that may be a common denominator, but it's even different Spanish that combines Central America, South America, Latin America. Mm-hmm. And when you come to this country, they don't always agree. Mm-hmm. You live in LA, you know you could ride down Crenshaw. There are El Salvadorian restaurants. Mm-hmm. You go and call it El Salvadorian, a Latino, or Mexican, you will get into a fight.
Right.
They don't necessarily agree with each other. But anyway, it's a cultural group. They're not a racial group. Mm-hmm. For a Latino to try to call me something that somebody white would call me and get away with it, I'm not going for it. Right. They don't have control of the society. They don't have the means to force me to accept being treated less than a man. Mm-hmm. Those two white guys, they were connected to a larger society that could do that. Mm-hmm. Latinos don't. So in terms of them being insulting, yeah, it was insulting, but they were the kind of insults that you want to go and slap somebody upside the head and then move on. Mm-hmm. Calling what Martinez and Herrera did or said in the room, insulting, and you're not going to put up with it, that's fine. That makes sense. Calling it racism, that is, again, approaching a different problem in the same way and expecting to be successful.
I see.
They are ethnocentric. They are cultural folk who are trying to insult us. They are not racist. They don't have that kind of authority. And the last point I'm gonna say, I know you've got a question. Herrera was part of the labor organization in Southern California. They just finished losing two large federal cases that were based on Latinos being in charge of departments and using being in charge of those departments to advance the careers of other Latinos while insulting, calling black people monkeys and calling black people unprepared, basically insulting black folk and trying not to promote us. They just lost two big federal cases over that.
I didn't know that. I hear about those types of things happening within these county jobs, city jobs, everywhere and stuff, but I didn't realize that it had gone to be adjudicated in the courts.
And the Latinos lost both cases, and they were labor cases. Herrera was part of that. So what we are saying is, yeah, they insulted black folk. Well, the insult is different from a racial insult. The racial insult will generally have some power and authority behind it. Martinez ain't white. Now, there are clearly Latinos who think because they have a little lighter skin that they are closer to being white. They ain't white, and white people will let them know you're not white.
Right.
Being insulted by a friend of mine who lives in my neighborhood is different from being insulted by a policeman with a gun on his side. What I'm saying is, fine, we can acknowledge the insult, but we have to understand that we want to address the issue, change it, stop it from being a problem. We cannot address it the same way. Racism is racism, and ethnocentrism is ethnocentrism.
That's an interesting point there, Dr. Horne. It's reminding me of something that I used to hear back in the day on front page, where they would say, like black folks can't be racist because racism implies you're in control of the system.
That's right.
And you're not in control of the system, so you cannot be racist. So
no, you can be a jerk, you can be crazy, you can be somebody who needs to be dealt with, you can be a problem, but no, you can't be racist. Latinos are not racist. They're not a race.
So what's the healing path towards this? I mean, because I think that a lot of people might feel now maybe their trust is damaged a little bit now, when they're going about themselves trying to, work alongside our brown brothers and sisters. What's the healing process?
The healing process is for us, for black folk, particularly those of us who have already hit our head against the wall a number of times.
Yeah.
It is for us to teach each other that you got to have a different strategy for different problems. If you think, if you have a hammer, again, the old cliche, if you got a hammer, then everything looks like a nail to you. And that's not where we are. Everything is not a nail. We have more than one tool in our toolbox. We have to talk to each other to lay out some strategies for how to deal with gnats and other irritations, and not treat them like mosquitoes. That may give us a fatal disease and kill us. We have to have different strategies for different situations. Clearly, Martinez and some of the other folk in that discussion were talking about political authority, dividing up the resources in different city areas. We need to be able to exert our own controls in areas where we dominate. they need to understand if you come over here and try to touch our stuff, you will get burned. You will be, there will be a response. We understand you're not the police. We understand you're not the federal force. If you come and deal with us, we will deal with you. In other words, it may be that some people have told me, listen, you slap me, I'm gonna slap you. You slap me harder, I'm gonna slap you harder. And before long, only one of us will be standing up, still standing after a number of slaps. But both of us will know better than to engage in that activity anymore. If we are trying to slap white people back, you know, it will not just be a slap. They're gonna put us in prison or they're gonna shoot us.
Yes.
And again, they know society will generally support them. The Floyd case, it was atypical. I'm glad it came out the way it came out, but it's atypical. Generally, we get harmed by the police. The police are generally created and maintained for white folks. And the punishment that they give us is not the same as somebody who is just speaking a different language. So all I'm saying is the part of the strategy needs to be, we need to talk to and teach each other how to respond to different situations differently. This is not the same problem. What Martinez and her cohorts gave us is not the same problem as the USC board of governors or the a gang of police who seem to be running the sheriff's department. It's not the same issue. We have to teach each other what we've learned. This is how you handle a different problem differently.
Yeah. So, and with that comes unity. I mean, I think we have to also do a better job of working together. I think that's how I feel. Sometimes we're not as together with one another when all of these forces around us are raging.
You're right, but Greg, one of the reasons we are not as together as we should be in trying to deal with the forces that move against us is that we think a lot of us think we can come up with an individual solution. Kanye thought he was so rich, he could do what he wanted, that he was invincible. Basically, he thought a position that would allow him access to say what he wanted, do what he wanted, but he was a rich Negro, so he would be allowed. You know, right. he would be in the club.
Right.
He'd be a part of what we have been interacting with most of our lives. And again, what he did was to get shown, as regularly happens, Negro, you still just a Negro. Being a rich Negro is really no different from being a poor Negro. You still in this society, and you know what I'm saying.
I do. I don't want to. I know exactly what you're saying, man. You know, it's very profound. And then, you know, and then I think I feel like Kanye feels he's.
Not now, he doesn't. They kicked his butt to the curb.
They kicked it to the curb.
Yeah, they did.
Thought he was the spokesperson for our community. And it's like, nah.
Yeah, and he actually has not earned the right to call himself a spokesperson for our community. Kanye may have spoken for Kanye or for whatever crazy notion Kanye would have at any given moment. But Kanye has never, ever been a spokesperson for Black people.
That's facts right there, man. You know, that's facts. You know, I hope, you know, going back to City Hall, I do hope for healing right now. And it's interesting to see where there's too much at stake right now. You know, the mayor's race for LA is heating up. If Karen Bass wins, or I should say, when Karen Bass wins, you know, the first black woman in LA to
she'd
be
be a
the
better
mayor.
mayor than Caruso.
Yeah, I agree. And
she's
then
coming better prepared for that particular arena. You can have a bull in a china shop. I'm gonna come in and just tell y'all what to do. I'm gonna be in charge. And that won't work in LA. You got 15 different city council districts. You got all kinds of commissions. LA is a montage of communities. You got different communities with different bits of authority. You got to know how to negotiate. You got to know how to be diplomatic. You got to know how to bring people to the table and get them together to agree on a common solution. This is not like San Francisco with a strong mayor form of government. London Breed basically is in charge. You know, she tells the city what to do. She tells the commissioners what to do because that's the way their city charter was written. Our city charter was not written that way. We are a collection of all kinds of different areas of control, and you have to be able to bring people to the table and negotiate stuff to get anything tangibly done. I'll give this last example, and I'll stop on this issue. One of Caruso's commercials that he's putting out, you know, one of the last ones was about the 30,000 beds in 300 days or some kind of crazy. Anybody who thinks they can solve the LA homeless crisis by simply building more homes, getting more beds, needs to go back to the boardroom and do some more study. You didn't read enough books. You didn't do your homework properly. Anybody who thinks there's a simple solution or a single solution to homelessness really should get out of the game. They don't know what they're talking about. Right. That's not. There is no one solution. You can build all the homes you want. Half of the homeless people have already told you they're not interested.
Right.
You know. There are a lot of homes and shelters available right now that a number of those who live on the street have rejected and said, we are not going to go there. We don't want to be bothered. We don't want the restrictions. We don't want any rules. We want to do what we want to do. So if you come up with a single solution to a complex problem, you are generally not going to be successful.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, with that problem comes safety, because now a lot of the unhoused have become crazy violent. You know, now we're starting to see a lot of stuff happening.
They've always been violent. They just they knew that they've learned that there's little payment or punishment for being violent now. If let me say it this way, for a number of these people who are running around trying to stab people, let about 10 or 15 of them get shot. Let about 10 or 15 of them get whipped to the ground. In other words, they get punished for acting in negative ways. Most of that violence that we are now talking about will stop.
You sound like my homeboy. He say he want to round them up and put them on an abandoned military base and
well, that may be a solution that should be tried, but I'm not advocating that. What I'm advocating is when people are getting harmed when they're standing up trying to catch the bus or get on the strange new subway, when basic citizens are being attacked by the homeless walking around with a pickaxe or a knife, again, you let 15 or 20 of those homeless people who act that way get dealt with forcefully. That particular problem will become far less of a problem.
So
They're not as crazy as we think they are.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. You know, here in Long Beach, where we originate, they are making a big deal saying that the metro is helping accelerate the homeless problem here by shooing them off the trains in the middle of the night. And then one of the buses, I think it's the 60 bus, comes out of Skid Row and ends in Long Beach and all that, and, people by the droves are coming down here. But I think it's not really Metro's fault. I mean, they got to run their lines and everything. But I think if people are unhoused, probably coming to Long Beach is a more peaceful existence than LA Skid Row, right? So
That's
I will ride it to the end of the line so I can have some peace.
And when they want to do that and they behave in a peaceful manner, essentially they are left alone. Mm-hmm. People may hold their nose or get up and move away from them, but they don't treat them badly. They don't try to attack them generally and beat them up or anything like that. But when some of the people who are trying to escape one negative arena, try to get to Long Beach or some other more peaceful area like that, and they bring violence themselves to other passengers, you got to do something and to start saying, well, we just need to talk to them. We just need to show them compassion. That's not the approach that always works. Sometimes if somebody has a knife about to stab you, you need to knock the hell out of them.
Yeah.
And then we'll discuss it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But, back to what you said about the politicians making these promises, even in that conversation about, the homeless coming down and just disembarking in Long Beach, I feel like a lot of the politicians try to politicize that. And I say, you can't politicize safety. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, don't politicize my safety, man. This is crazy out here.
Very good point. Mm-hmm. The part of the run-up to this mayor's election is at least one of the candidates trying to do exactly that. They're trying to politicize safety. You're not safe in LA. You need me to run roughshod over people to get you to feel safe when you go to Beverly Hills or when you go to the pavilions or when you go shopping, when you go out to a restaurant. You need me to be able to make sure you have the public services that will protect you. Now, we need the society itself to protect itself. We, I don't know whether we can say there are more violent people out here now doing more violent things, or whether we are just paying more attention to the same level that we've had before. There are ways to handle this without shooting everybody in the street. There are ways to handle this without going back to the old Wild Wild West. The people do need to feel safe, and that is part of electing leadership. If the leadership cannot help provide safety and security and a sense of calm in my society, in my neighborhood, I really don't want that leader. And I think in this particular mayor's race, we can elect someone who can work out a plan with other people who have ideas and other people who have territories and skin in the game. I think somebody who knows how to bring the disparate forces together can be able to come up with a viable solution to what seems to be an increase in physical force on the streets. I think we can do that. We just have to understand what the nature of the job is, what kind of skills people need to have to come to the job, that kind of thing.
Yeah, very, very interesting. We need a coalition builder, somebody who really can bring folks together. That is a definite truth right there. My friend lives in South Africa, and he comes to America every summer to do business. And so we were sitting around, and he says, Greg, where did all these homeless people come and why are they so crazy? And we started talking about, he was sharing that it looked like all of a sudden, and he's been coming to the United States for years, but in this trip, he said, man, it looks like one of the townships, in Johannesburg, like this is like a proper township right here, And then he was also, wondering, okay, the people, it's one thing where the people are unhoused, something happened where they become unhoused, but he said they're just like straight mentally gone, And I was thinking there's a lot of bad dope on the streets.
Yeah, and part of it is drug related, but it's bigger than that.
Yeah, he sure it is. It was like a dang township. All right, so as you look across the region, Professor Horne, okay, there's a conversation that's happening about Black political power increasing in this election in Southern California. You would have Karen Bass as mayor. You would have Rex Richardson there, and you got Emma Sharif in Compton. You got Lula Holmes in Carson. You got James Butts in Inglewood. It's like Black mayors all over the place. Does that really make a difference?
It makes a difference, but we should definitely be wary of identifying an increase in the number of Black officials as an indication of an increase in Black power in California politics. As we still say, all skin folks ain't kin folks. And simply because you look like me does not mean you have my best interest at heart. There have been some strange things done, for example, and this is no criticism, or it's not intended to be a criticism of Inglewood, but there have been some very, very strange decisions made in Inglewood related to the new football stadium and housing and et cetera. I'm still fascinated that you have this best looking football stadium in America right now. The brand new SoFi Stadium should be called the Inglewood Stadium. Inglewood doesn't seem to be getting a whole lot of play out of this. First, they were going to call it the LA Stadium, the Los Angeles Stadium. Inglewood is a separate city from LA. But again, in the negotiations about what benefits Black folk were going to get out of this, we seem to continue coming up on the short end. The housing situation in Inglewood became and has remained very, very precarious in Inglewood because of decisions being made. Just simply having somebody Black in charge does not mean Black folk are going to benefit. We need to be careful about identifying Black folk in authority with an increase in Black power. We're not really seeing an increase in Black power. What we are seeing is an increase in the election of Black officials. That's, again, one of the things that Latinos are going to have to learn. Eventually, Latinos are going to become the dominant population in California. They're already moving toward that. They're going to end up being 50 to 55% of the California population. And some of them think that once that population has gotten to that point, that they'll have Latino power. They'll have some kind of, chance to be, we're in charge now. We're the ones that you have to come to get any meaningful decisions made about what your community will get. They don't understand. I don't care what the number is. they may get to be 60 to 65% of the California population. White folks still gonna be in charge. Political power is not just numbers. It is how you handle the authority that you have and how you benefit yourselves, your community, and others with that authority. White folks know how to benefit themselves. We who live in Southern California, Greg, know, for example, there is a significant difference between Long Beach and Orange County, or LA and Hollywood, LA LA and what's the other thing? Culver City. You know, we know there are differences, and it's not just saying black folk in charge, white folks in charge. What we are talking about is how representatives of communities handle the political authority that they have. What kind of decisions are they making? Are they making decisions that benefit their larger community more, or are they making decisions that benefit themselves as individuals more? So the whole idea that there is an increase in black political power, I'm not ready to say that yet. We're just getting more black folk elected, but we still have not quite organized the black communities well enough to be able to do more than say we have the 8th, 9th, and 10th districts. You know, there are more black folk in Southern California than that, and all of us don't live in those areas. But those are the only areas that have been delineated for us. Why do we only get 3 seats out of 15? If we had power, we would not just be limited to 3. Again, it is how one utilizes the authority to make decisions about one's community that allows a growth of political power, not just the number of individuals who look like us who've been elected. Yeah, your audio went off.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I was just thinking, though, in the case of Inglewood, I also see an opportunity, right? Because I think the stadium and all of that is happening in that area. I think they've zoned it as kind of an entertainment district now. The Clipper Stadium is being built, and it's just going to be off the chain in Inglewood. I do see where, you know, the housing has gone crazy in terms of values and everything. I wish Market Street could be activated a lot more by
There you go.
by the, you know, by black business communities, and I do see some movement, you know, in that way. I just think it's an opportunity for us to move, you know, as the city of Inglewood begins to change. There's got to be a way that the people can have some sort of control with the new metamorphosis of that city. But I'm hoping that it's going to be for the best in the long run. And then, like I said, Market Street, if we could just activate it. I know a lot of community people there, business owners right there on the street who are doing the doggone thing, trying to make sure that vibrancy happens as the city changes. But it just represents a big opportunity. And you are right. It doesn't matter who is in there, long if they have our interests at heart, they make it business friendly, they make it community oriented, then yeah, they'll be okay. It doesn't matter really what the color they are.
It would. I agree with you. Now, if Market Street, that whole area should be black economic development area. We should have black businesses all over there. That would show me something significant has changed in Inglewood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We are still waiting, but having grown up with within several different kinds of Black communities, I'm still from the school of don't tell me, show me.
Yeah.
If you're really Black, show me. Don't come to me and give me your spiel about how down and how Black and how much you want there to be Black progress. Do something when you get the decision-making authority. Do something to show that. And Market Street basically being a Black economic community would be absolutely great.
All right, y'all. That's a wisdom right there. What as we get ready to close here, Dr. Horne, what is the most pressing issue before? I mean, there's a lot, but what is the most pressing issue on our ballot to you that you would counsel the community to look out for?
On the ballot now, I agree with those who have said democracy itself is on the ballot. Now,
how so though? How so?
We have some nuts running around loose who apparently have been let loose on the range by believing it's now time to show their true selves, and they have decided that they can control events. A few years ago, Greg, we all witnessed this whole idea of children being taught everybody's a winner. In any kind of competition, everybody's going to get a trophy. Everybody's going to get a I won kind of certificate. And that's not the way life is.
That's right.
Life has always been kill or be killed.
Yes, sir.
You have to defend yourself against animals that want to eat you or kill you. Everybody does not always win. Right. We now have the logical result of that experiment. People deciding that if I don't win, then the whole contest was rigged. Only when I get all the votes or most of the votes will there be what I consider something fair. Everything else is bogus. See, that's nonsense. The way this country has been set up governmentally, this democratic process says that the people will be able to choose their own leaders. And you choose leaders by somebody winning and somebody not winning. Right now, we are in a predicament whereby those who think that they are better armed militarily can choose for everybody else who wins and who loses. It is a very precarious situation to be in. African Americans, African folk in this society should be better prepared not to get caught into that particular whirlwind. This is really a fight between white folks, and we are just going to be pulled into it. We really should be ready to leave and go to Africa if we choose to do that. We really should have better options available for us in case this whole experiment, this whole 275-year experiment blows up in our faces. So what's on the ballot, I think, is the survival of democracy, not just as we know it, but democracy as we want it to be. There just are too many forces that just believe if I don't win, ain't gonna be no winning. If I don't win, nobody wins. We need to be careful about getting too involved in other people's fights, and we have to be very, very clear about what our own interests are in any clash. of political wills.
Mm-hmm.
Those of us who have decided all of our options are going to be right here. We're not going anyplace else. We're not going to be put out of here. We are not going to try to be Pan-African or pan anything. We're gonna stay here.
Mm-hmm.
This is our country, our place, and we're gonna fight to the death here. That's fine if you choose that. But if you choose that, you better know who you're choosing to be with and what plan they have not to take everybody down with them. So on the ballot right now, we got democracy, and that's something that we need to be very aware of. I don't think the MAGA folk are going to prevail. I think in the end, Democrats are going to win more seats than they lose by November 8th. But still, we need to understand that there's a lot more going on here than just a particular political contest. It's a lot bigger than that.
Yeah. Let's touch on the Pan-African thought for a moment there, because I'm with you 100%. I really am, exploring in a very real way the option of, okay, maybe I need to move or whatever. But, what about, if we are beginning to share ideas of expatriation with the community, I think maybe there are those who say, okay, well, I'll go to Africa for a portion of the year, and then the rest of the time I'm gonna still stay here because I need to be around mama and them and all this, right? So we also have to think about look at the world business in a different way. I think if we're going to set up commerce with Africa, which I think should be our central strategy, trade, not aid, we have to begin to think about things like agriculture and all of those things to, and sometimes that's a different way of thought for us city folk is a different way of thought and everything. But, what are some of the business categories that folks should be thinking about in order to sustain themselves? Should they move to Africa or strengthen their connection to Africa?
And my advocacy for our reconnecting in broader ways with Africa include mainly dual citizenship. I'm not in favor of giving up what we've earned here and just throwing caution to the winds and saying, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm leaving. I'm not coming back. I'm going back to my roots. That's fine. But I think you need to keep linkages with here and there. But we are the most skilled, the best trained, the best educated Black folk on the planet. Having been in this country this long, we have been able to gain some advantages. There are Black farmers who are still trying to get the federal government to help them out of the racism that has been the regular part of their existence in this country. There are Black farmers who are expert at developing land. Taking some of that expertise back to the continent would be great. There are great African farmers, but there are African American farmers who have access not only to techniques and to machinery, but they can actually help Africa develop into an area that is a food producer as opposed to a food client. Africa should not be in a position in 2022 and having to import so much of its food. Nigeria should not be importing rice. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you right there. It's really interesting to note that, as the US dollar gets strong across the globe. It is, devaluing or depreciating African currencies. In Ghana, just a couple of years ago, they had the year of return in 2019 and 2020. The cedi, which is their currency, was the strongest foreign currency against the U.S. dollar. And here we are in 2022. Now it's the worst, and so. Also, too, when I look on the news in Ghana, I see them, the dollar, as they're trying to control the strength of the dollar. It causes crazy inflation in these developing countries like Ghana. So with the US dollar affecting the cedi, then the war between Russia and Ukraine is really affecting food prices in Ghana. Yes. Why? Because Ghana imports its wheat from Ukraine. And I was just like, wait, why aren't you growing your own stuff?
Exactly. And so our being able to take a lot of skills and a lot of talent that we have gained here and share that knowledge with Africa, that's wide open. And I think we need to do more of that. We need to just keep our options open. Mm-hmm. I'm not one for going down with the ship if the knuckleheads prevail and start trying to impose some kind of autocracy. Mm-hmm. Here, we need to be able to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
I'm not for it's America or nothing. I think we have learned too much. We are much too broad as African folk now not to understand the value of returning and making 1.8 billion folk, that whole area, making that the strongest area in the world, as opposed to always trying to defend Africa and defend ourselves from here. We need to, again, increase our options. That's what I'm saying, Greg. We need to open our eyes a little wider. Mm-hmm. We don't just need to put all of our eggs in one basket. Mm-hmm. In fact, we need to control where we can get the eggs from. We need to be the ones creating and growing and expanding the chickens and the other birds that give us the eggs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We are brilliant people. We need to refocus our brilliance so that it does not get dissipated and wasted in only trying one thing. Mm-hmm. We cannot just look one place and expect to always be benefited.
Well, you certainly helped us open our eyes a lot wider this morning. Thank you so much for coming on. We learned today, the situation in City Hall, not racism, ethnocentrism.
Yes.
You got to look at it differently here, what's going on, and understand who truly is in power. Very interesting. We talked about, just the national race and what is before us here and in this election time, and framing our perspectives, as Black people, and just went on over, and we're still building those bridges with the continent. And, certainly that's got to be an option, I think, as we go through this time, because democracy is at stake. You're going to go down with the ship, or you're going to open your eyes and expand your options. That's what we're leaving you with this morning. Any last words?
I think you pretty well wrapped it up just then.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, Dr. David Horne, for coming on with us.
Anytime,
Coffee Greg. Conversations. Look, we're going to Ghana. I'm going in December.
Okay.
I'm going this December, and then again for PanaFest. We got the trip coming along with PanaFest here, and
I'll be going to Liberia probably by the end of this month. And one day you and I have another coffee conversation about a gigantic project that we have in Liberia. Nice. And other parts of Africa.
Okay, let's do it. I'm there. Let's make it happen.
Okay.
Make it happen. All right. Thank you so much, Professor Horne.
Stay strong, stay Black, keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward. That's what's up. All right, y'all. Look, you can get coffee conversations with Greg J on our Facebook page. That's what we said. And hold on one second. There we go. Uh-oh. Yes, that's it. Well, Professor David Horne, you are just an awesome guy. Thank you so much for coming in with us today, and
Thank you for the compliment.
expressing your perspectives here. Coffee Conversations with Greg J. I don't know why I have left myself there. I am. Get us Beach City Radio, beachcityradio.com. We'll leave the link also to our trip to Ghana in the chat so you can check that out. And then just keep following us here. We've got a lot to talk about with our explorations of the continent, and we're going to be sharing our perspectives and journaling with you here on Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Always remember, love one another, love one another, love one another. Make it the best day ever. Peace and blessings.